Lovely evening. We're always grateful for your presence around here on the Primetime Show. And tonight, we are going to have a discussion. Obviously, Titans and Jags, the most important thing on everybody's minds here locally, or if you're not local, if you are a Titans fan. This is a big opportunity for them to win and get in. And players that are returning for the Titans in this game are going to be vital for the team's success on Saturday night. So we are going to take a look at that, some players who are returning, some who spoke in the locker room, and obviously, because it's a Wednesday, as we typically like to do, you'll hear some Greg Cosell analysis that we have that we have courtesy of the podcast that we did earlier today, the podcast known as The Install, as a matter of fact. We will do all of those things throughout the course of this evening's show. But first, we need you guys to share this show. If you are hanging out on Facebook Live with us, please share now to public in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you are on Twitter, be kind enough to retweet it, and we would be grateful for you that way. Twitch or YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and we would be grateful for that as well. And if you would like to tell a friend to do the exact same thing, well, the more the merrier. We always enjoy having you guys around here on a prime time Wednesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday night, whatever the case may be. With that being said, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Superbook Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com, your dream address without the stress. Get the intel edge you need to succeed with the best real estate team in Middle Tennessee, GaryAshton.com. Two Rivers Ford, where you go for 2023 model year Fords, available right now at the dealership. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. Superbook Sports, where you can get in on all the action, be it football, basketball, hockey, and everything else in between. They'll match your first bet up to $1,000 in the Superbook Sports app. So download it today. And in the meantime, TrueMav Fitness, your workout goals can be accomplished. Your New Year's resolutions can be accomplished with the team at TrueMav Fitness. You can test drive their workout system for yourself and get your first class free as a Middle Tennessee resident, TrueMavFitness.com. So as we look at the Titans and the game against the Jags coming up this weekend, there's a lot of different questions that have to be asked, right? Theoretically, how much better can Josh Dobbs be, if at all, in a game where he's going to have more things at his disposal? It's still not a ton, right? The Titans roster is still down bad, but he's going to have a little more to work with. And obviously, what we have seen from Josh Dobbs is substantially better than what we were all seeing from Malik Willis during the time that he was on the field. This is something that gives them the best advantage heading into Jacksonville from the quarterback standpoint, but, comes along with a couple of different things. Now, because a lot of you guys are asking about, for example, Christopher T. Brush says, any word on David Long? No, he has not been designated to return even, nor activated from injured reserve to the active roster at this point. He's not practicing. I would imagine that he's not going to go at this point, but maybe they're keeping some cards up their sleeves. We'll see what happens with that. It also is worth noting, as Hot Doobie points out, Burks caught too many beautiful fastballs from Dobbs, sore hands on the injury report. No, worse, it's a groin. It's a groin issue that just occurred today, which caused him to be limited in practice and is going to jeopardize his potential ability to play in Week 18 in Jacksonville. So this is not an ideal situation, obviously. It hasn't been an ideal situation all year long. But, obviously you'd want Treylon Burks out there to help Josh Dobbs. We'll see if they're able to get him on the field or not. A groin injury is concerning. But I think as you start to look through the different things that the Titans will have at their disposal and some of the things that they won't have at their disposal, you have to first start with the quarterback position. And that was something that Greg Cosell and I did earlier on today's episode of The Install, which is the podcast that Greg and I do. If you are interested in further football film analysis, Greg is obviously one of the foremost minds in the sport. And, I can ask him enough questions and sounds stupid enough for him to have to explain things to me like he would to a toddler. But also, I think that's very beneficial for the purposes of you guys who are trying to learn as much as I'm trying to learn from a guy who's really bright in Greg Cosell. So with the situation for the Titans and the quarterback at this point, what is the biggest difference that you've noticed between the two players, Malik Willis and Josh Dobbs? We're going to talk about this together on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. It is, as always, presented by Two Rivers Ford, where you go for 2023 model year Fords available right now. You can test drive them if you like and enjoy what it is to be a Two Rivers Ford customer. They always go above and beyond to make sure that you have the best experience with them. Their customer service is award-winning. They offer you great financing rates if you choose to finance through Two Rivers, and they always sell all new non-specialty Ford vehicles at below MSRP. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So, the situation for the Titans, what's the biggest difference between what you've seen through a handful of games of Malik, 3 starts and 8 total games, and then what you witnessed from Dobbs on Thursday night? Dre Davis asks a question about Des Fitzpatrick not in the lineup or on the field because he stinks. He's not a good football player. And, I think that they're obviously done with Des Fitzpatrick. I think we all knew that they were done with Des Fitzpatrick before, but it's never been clear at this point. And again, that it's respectfully to Des. I'm sure that he's working hard to try and be a better football player. He's just not able to contribute in a meaningful way for this football team right now. So he doesn't play. He doesn't even get activated off the practice squad. He doesn't even get called up from the practice squad. He just remains in this kind of nebulous situation. Is it possible that Dobbs takes over right tackle? Or you'd rather have him at right tackle than left? That's interesting. Well, Raven Clark is also very bad. Eric Alonso says patience. Mark Gonzalez says Dobbs isn't a statue. You're calling Malik Willis a statue? What are you talking about, Mark? What does that even mean? Malik Willis's initial tendency is to run with the football as opposed to sitting back in the pocket and trying to drop back and pass. It's not a natural thing for him yet. So maybe he looks a little less natural doing it, but a statue, that just completely ignores the skill set of what it is that we've seen from Malik Willis. So I'm not sure what you're watching there. As you look at the situation though for Malik and Dobbs, the thing that stood out to Greg Cosell in his tape study, I thought was pretty interesting. A very well-made point that all of us can understand. I think that part playing fast, Greg, and kind of keeping things at an even keel, not getting too frenetic is the word that you use. That yep. was the thing that kind of stood out to me. And I think you could see it in the way that he was fairly comfortable going to a variety of different receivers. We haven't seen 10 players catch a pass in a Titans game in quite some time, but he clearly went back to some guys who had drops early in the first half and found a way, as you mentioned, to kind of settle into that and give the offense a little bit more rhythm, even though they did show some of the same issues that caused them to be disjointed.
And I know it's probably become a cottage industry in Nashville to rip Todd Downing, but I thought that the first play of the game was a really smart call. You're trying to get your quarterback a completion on a relatively easy throw, because what quarterbacks want early, and I never will forget Phil Simms telling me this, that when you're a quarterback and a young quarterback, all you want initially are completions. You don't care if they're 3 yards. You just want completions. And I thought the first play of the game, Buck, was just a really nice call to get him a completion. It was a misdirection run element off jet action. They had play action boot and a throw into the flat. And Okonkwo ran for 12 yards, but it was an easy throw. So right off the bat, you're getting a completion. You're getting comfortable. It turned out to be a first down. That always adds to it because now you feel like, hey, we're maybe into a drive right away. So I thought they did a really nice job right there. And one other point I think that's really worth making, and I know they only scored 13. So, I mean, that's the way it goes. Sure. Obviously, they didn't play Derrick Henry. So, but I thought he did not struggle on third down as many inexperienced quarterbacks do. I mean, he was 7 for 13 for 104 yards, a touchdown, only 1 sack, and the most important point is 6 of those 7 completions resulted in first downs.
Yeah.
That's the important point. So, to me, that's a positive sign going forward.
And certainly that's why they'll move forward with him as the starting quarterback against the Jags.
You had to, because the difference was so visually evident. And again, this is no knock on Willis that he'll never be a good player. None of us know that. And very often players make meaningful leaps from year 1 to year 2, and that could well happen. But you could not, given what Dobbs showed, there's no way you could put Willis out there given what he had showed on tape.
So there's no way that you could put Malik Willis out there, right? And that's not opinion. That's film study. Those are the kind of things that, I think makes that analysis hit home a little more. A to Z Sports Prime Time, by the way, presented by Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is where you go to wager on Week 18 between the Titans and Jags, on all the other games that are on the board this weekend. A lot of critical NFL games that will decide postseason. For example, the Titans aren't the only winning in. The Patriots and the Bills have winning in implications. The situation for the Green Bay Packers against the Detroit Lions. The Packers need a win. You can bet on all these major football games in Week 18 as well as every other major sport in the Superbook Sports app. So download it today. Go to superbook.com for terms and conditions. They'll match your first bet up to $1,000, win or lose. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. So the biggest difference is that Dobbs is a professional quarterback. Now, that doesn't mean that Dobbs is a franchise quarterback. That doesn't mean that Josh Dobbs will have a better NFL career than Malik Willis will. Nothing about like the future implications of these guys is what's on the table right now. What we're talking about is, can they play the position as well as it needs to be played for this team to have a shot? And what Dobbs gives them, as you just heard Greg articulate in a number of different fashions, he gives them the ability to legitimately run a professional football offense, which is not something that Malik Willis can do at this time. Do not make any kind of long-term determinations off of Malik, although obviously it's not ideal that he can't even be the backup quarterback. I mean, he is the backup quarterback right now, but obviously he was just unseated as, the backup filling in for the starter by a guy who they just found off a practice squad about a week and a half ago at this point. So for him to be able to convert on third down, critical. For him to be able to operate their passing game, critical. I think that Dobbs is there's no disputing that Dobbs gives them the best chance to win this football game. And that, I think, is the biggest takeaway that we should all have at this point. Eric Alonso says it correctly. He's a 6-year veteran. And there's, he's obviously, as Greg said, he's showing some things for a player who's making his first NFL start. Forced throws, predetermined throws, mistakes that are common. But it's not just common mistakes compounded with an inability to read a defense or operate a huddle or get guys into the right play that Malik was struggling with as well. Dobbs has been in NFL meeting rooms for 6 seasons. He has been on NFL practice fields for 6 seasons. He has some physical limitations, but that's okay, because he can do enough to help them win a game if, they obviously have some other things that need to fall in line for them to be able to do this smoothly as well. But at this point, Dobbs is the best they've got. And if they want a shot to be able to get into the postseason, Josh Dobbs is the best guy to do it. So we'll talk about the idea of winning and getting in, and the players that the Titans will get back on this roster and how much better they can make this team. We will do so here in just a second. And I'm going to ask you the question on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Which defensive player is more vital to get back out on the field? Danico Autry or Amani Hooker? Now, that might sound like an interesting question given what the two players do and the fact that both theoretically will be available on Saturday night in Jacksonville. But as you look at the Titans defense and the guys who you will be without at this time, knowing that in all likelihood Autry and Simmons are going to be available, Hooker is still TBD, but has a pretty good shot to go. What kind of stands out to you about the rest of the roster and where those needs may still be filled with some other pieces that are missing? On Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can answer the question. While you do that, I'll remind you that the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, GaryAshton.com, your dream address without the stress. The Ashton team will get you the intel edge you need to sell your home without any showings or stagings, to find your next home while the Nashville real estate market is still red hot, to win the buyer battle, and to cash in on your home equity now. Nobody does it better than the Ashton Group. That's why they're the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators and of A to Z Sports Prime Time. Go to GaryAshton.com to get the intel edge you need to succeed. So, as we look at these different things, obviously the most difficult player that they've had to replace or try to replace this season is Danico Autry. After his injury in Green Bay, they didn't win a game. He returned to the lineup against the Texans, was sat against the Cowboys because obviously they want him to get healthy, was very productive against the Texans, but could not individually will the Titans to a win, but did make them more of a threat up front. We know how much better they are, not just with Simmons, but with Autry as well. Simmons and Weaver, and in this case, Terrell Basham and whomever else is going to play outside linebacker for this team and defensive line for this team on Saturday night, they feed off what Danico Autry is able to create. And also because of Danico Autry's ability to create for himself. He's a big-time player. But when you look at the rest of the secondary for the Titans right now, Hooker getting back in the lineup and playing at a higher level may be more important at this particular time because of how many different pieces that Titans secondary is already missing.
Jaguars did some really good things offensively as well, concept-wise, and they were able to throw the ball, and there was not really a pass rush in that game. And that's a big factor. Right now, I assume Simmons and Autry will be playing on Saturday night.
Yes, they are scheduled to go, as is Derrick Henry. We're still awaiting word on Amani Hooker and Christian Fulton.
Yeah, Hooker is critical because Adams, who, by the way, gave them an awful lot this year. Say what you want, but that kid gave them an awful lot, given that he was a free agent and was not expected to play at all and ended up playing over, the last 2.5 months, almost every snap every week. So now that he's done for the season, they really need Hooker. They play a lot of big nickel with 3 safeties. That has become a foundational personnel package on defense. Now, do they have to play it? No, but it's become foundational. So I assume they'd like to play it, so they need Hooker for that.
Yeah. So they need Amani Hooker back in the lineup for the reasons that Greg just mentioned. Now, explosive plays. The Jags' longest play from scrimmage in Week 14 when the Titans lost to them at home was 25 yards. They did well to kind of hold down those explosive plays, but also because of the 4 turnovers that the Titans had in that game, it created additional opportunities for the Jags to get extra possessions. Obviously, cost the Titans a chance at points in a couple of different circumstances. And the Titans need everything that they can get at this point. Deion Bonner says, for the life of me, I can't understand why on earth the Colts let Autry walk. I am quite certain they did as well. I think that as you look at the circumstance for the secondary, though, Hooker is desperately needed to get things back on track. So I think that, yes, while they are theoretically going to have both of these players back out on the field, including Jeff Simmons, we'll see what happens with Christian Fulton. Didn't necessarily sound like it's a guarantee at this time. I think that you have to consider the situation, and I think that if you had to consider the situation, that Hooker is a critical piece for how many other pieces they are potentially going to be missing in the secondary when they trot this thing out there on Saturday night. Any David Long Jr. update, says Steve Manning. We did give you one earlier as in the show, but that's okay. Not everybody watches the whole show. He's not practicing, so I don't anticipate him. He's not even been designated to return at this time. So I don't anticipate David Long playing in the Jags game right now. We'll see. Maybe something happens in the next 3 days? Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Yeah, 3 days for them to make that determination. But I would think to not even have him back at practice or be able to designate him to return to practice is obviously not trending in the right direction. William Young says, who do I think is going to win the game? Oh, I have no idea. I mean, you could ask me that about any game. I have no idea. Pregame predictions are useless, right? I don't do them. We don't do pregame predictions. We don't do record predictions. We don't do any of that shit around here. Now, that's okay if you want to do that. That stuff's fun, and if you want to do your water cooler thing with your buddies, that's cool. But I don't really want to waste time talking about things that may not even be applicable to the game. I'd rather talk about the game after the fact and what they did or did not do, as opposed to pregame prognostications, because it's just it's a waste of time, I think. Not that my time is super valuable in any way, shape, or form, but it's just words. It doesn't mean anything. If I was to tell you, I think the Jags are going to win by 50, okay, or I think the Titans are going to, I wouldn't have told you that the Titans would have lost to the Jags because Derrick Henry had 2 lost fumbles in the last game. You couldn't have seen that either, and if you think that you did, you're just lying to yourself at that point. But whatever. We've already spent too much time on the fact that I don't want to answer the pregame prediction questions. Patrick Bird says, I know it's early, Buck, but what do you expect the quarterback situation to be in the offseason for the Titans? Tannehill salary cap casualty. Well, Patrick, we've got a whole schedule of offseason shows to do, and I would be remiss if we started doing offseason shows before we actually reach the offseason. So there will be plenty of time to address that. At this time, though, I think that as far as this game goes, the Derrick Henry fumble situation is something we're talking about. That was something that running back coach Tony Dews was asked earlier today. I'm going to let you hear from Tony right after, who, by the way, I really enjoy talking to, and is always a great quote, I think, and his voice just generally cracks me up. How concerned are you about Derrick Henry's fumbling habit in the last couple of games? Because I was looking at the fumble numbers for Derrick. The most fumbles he's ever had in a season is 5. The most fumbles he's ever lost in a season is 3. That was both of those numbers from the 2019 season, when they obviously went on the AFC Championship run. In total, Derrick has, not including this season, he has had 11 total fumbles. He has lost 6 of those 11 fumbles prior to this year. He has 6 fumbles alone in 2022, and he has lost 3 of those thus far. It's, habit, or, just the fact, whether you want to talk about the sleeves, whatever the case may be, what do you make of it? We're going to talk about it together right after I tell you. By the way, happy birthday, Derrick Henry. Sorry to talk about your turnover problem on your birthday. Happy 29th to Derrick. It always cracks me up that Derrick's that much. I mean, he's not that much younger than me. I guess he's about 6 months younger than me. But even still, he's just such a giant, overwhelmingly huge human being. And don't think of that person as being younger than you. Anyway, right after I tell you that TrueMath Fitness, you want to be big, you want to be strong, you want to be fast, TrueMath Fitness is where you go. They have a plan to make sure that you achieve your New Year's resolution fitness goals. Your first workout is free for you to try at TrueMathFitness.com as a Middle Tennessee resident. The workouts are exceptional. I personally love them. I like the group classes because it keeps me motivated. It keeps me on track. You may not necessarily vibe with the boot camp style classes, even though I think for a lot of you, if you tried them, you would really, really get a lot out of it. But if that's not your vibe, that's okay. They've got personal training. They've got an open gym, and they have membership levels to meet every budgetary and fitness need that you may have. TrueMathFitness.com is where to go to sign up for your new membership and to get your first workout free. So, as we look at the situation for Derrick Henry, what do you make of, I guess, kind of the habit or trend? How concerned are you that Derrick is having a turnover problem? Clearly, he's concerned with it, and we talked about this with him on Thursday night. When he's as frustrated as anybody because he doesn't, other than 2019, he hasn't had problems turning over the ball. The ball security element of this has not been that, it's just not been a big part of his career. And this year it's obviously cropped up. So when we talked to Tony Dews about the things that they're working on to work on Derrick's ball security, I thought his answer was pretty interesting.
Derrick don't want me, nobody else do, right?
Derrick's been saying how he's been working with you this weeks prior, just trying to fix the fumbling issues. What kind of things have you been doing, strides he's made in that area?
really it's just a reminder of the fundamentals and techniques of carrying the football, in terms of keeping his wrist above the elbow, keeping the point of the ball up, and then, some fumbles happen. I mean, some things happen, but you always go back to fundamentals and techniques. So really it's just carrying the ball the proper way, squeezing it, not putting it in jeopardy when it's running. And then obviously some of it is when you're fighting through tackles and fighting to break tackles, the second and third guy in, just like our guys, coach, they're coming in, gripping at the ball, punching at the ball. So just being cognizant and just really more than anything, just a constant reminder that the second and third guys coming in and they're trying to get the ball. And if the ball's away from your body or your wrist is low, your forearm is flat, that you're giving them more ball. The ball is exposed more, I should say. So keeping your wrist up, the point up, and then keeping the ball tight to your body. And then the next layer to that is pad level. By getting his pads over, now they're hitting the top of your shoulder pads as opposed to having the ball exposed because my body's upright, my pads are high.
Could that make it?
So that is Titans running back coach Tony Dews talking about the things that they're working on, the things that they're coaching Derek on, and the things that Derek is obviously trying to rectify to make sure that they can continue to keep valuable possessions and not try to turn the ball over on a regular basis or as frequently as he has been. It's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime Show. Thank you guys as always for hanging out. Radio show tomorrow is going to be a lot of fun. We hope you'll join us at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone. We'll have more Greg Cosell analysis for you to talk about this Titans and Jaguars game. We will also get into a discussion. I'm still waiting to hear on who the Titans player that will join the radio show might be. So I will wait to tell you until we have legitimate confirmation on that. But there will be a player lurking around the radio show at some point as they wrap up their last day of practice. We'll see what happens with Treylon Burks. That's probably what we'll talk about tomorrow. In the meantime, have a great rest of your evening, and I will talk to you for one more Primetime Show tomorrow night. And if not, radio show starts at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone. Oh, and by the way, if you're not sick enough of me talking at you, the Tighten Up Podcast goons had me on the Tighten Up Podcast today, and they asked me about whether I think Todd Downing is coming back in 2023. And that answer, I think you're going to want to hear. All right. See you guys.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It ain't warm when she goes away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and she's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away.